Welcome to Over the Edge podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Rankin. So welcome to this week's podcast. Okay, so I believe what I'm going to be talking about today is the difference between pursuing a hobby and pursuing a career. Okay, so with that, are you doing something that you would like to turn into a hobby, or are you doing something that you know that it needs to level up so you can turn it from a hobby into an actual career? So I'm talking to the entrepreneurs out there. This podcast is going to be directed towards you. Okay, so interestingly enough, I have turned many a hobby into a business. And I actually enjoy the idea of creating. And I think that there needs to be a lot more people out there creating things and just doing what they love and pursuing their passions. Okay, so but how do you know if what you're doing is actually just a hobby, or, if you're just passing time because you're bored, or if you want to actually turn that into something that you can make money from? So I guess let's kind of differentiate the two ideas. So if you have a hobby or something, let's just say it's, I'm going to choose like woodworking, right? And that's something that you enjoy doing, and you would like to take that to the next level. You have to ask yourself, one, is there a niche or a need that you will be fulfilling within the community? So is it something that your customers are looking for? And two, how much do you really want to do it? And I say that because as an entrepreneur, you're going to be investing a lot of time and dedication. Blood, sweat, and tears, my friends, blood, sweat, and tears are going into the creation of your business, okay? So even if it's just something simple as pushing paper, okay, it's still going to require you learning to market yourself, you're learning your trade, your craft, okay? And you really have to be in love with your craft. And, I don't say that lightly because, and let me kind of back that up with the fact of, like, if you don't love what you're doing, everything's going to always be half-assed. Okay. You really have to love what you're doing in order for that to shine through your products or shine through your services, so, I mean, it may even be that you have a service to offer, not necessarily a product that, people can buy off the shelves, but it's something, like it's a service. You still have to love what you are doing. And I think that goes without saying for any type of career that you do. I know a lot of people use the word job, and to me personally, I think there is a huge difference between holding a job and participating in a career. And I say that because, anyone can get a job. You can go and do whatever, John Doe, Jane Doe can do just to get a paycheck. But, if to invest yourself into a career, that does take investment. It takes investment. It takes, you actually wanting and having a desire to truly do something. So, okay, but let me jump back over to the idea of, turning a hobby into a full-time business. There are some hobbies or some things, I don't really want to use the term hobby, but, hobby is something that you do kind of in your free time, your spare time. It's something that you do because you just find enjoyment, right? It's like a pastime, and I know some people do woodworking, and I don't know why I'm picking on woodworking. Maybe it's just because that's just what popped in my head. But, for me, it started out, I was in corporate America, and I started out making jewelry, just something to do. I also would do paintings, acrylic paintings and things like that. But I started out making jewelry, and for me, a lot of things turned into, oh, well, people like them, and yeah, I can make some money off of it. And I did kind of incorporate that into my boutique business once I left corporate America. But ultimately, I enjoy things that people can use to help heal their bodies naturally. So for me, it was more of the homeopathic scope. So, taking things and, wondering what it would be like to make my own bath and body products, and, trying to go using very little chemicals and more all natural products as I possibly could. And what could I do to kind of create that? And then other people kind of were like, oh, well, you do this. Well, could I buy some of that from you? And I was like, yeah, sure, absolutely. And then, that kind of spawned in taking something from like a hobby for me. And I ended up incorporating it into my boutique business. And, here I am 4 years later, and it's still going strong. So, it's taking something that you love and finding a niche, or finding there's like a need or a desire, like the public really requires what it is that you have to offer. And it doesn't have to be, billions of people require what you have to offer, although that would be amazing if it did. But it could be, like a local community, or, that you have this need or this service that can be fulfilled. And, and I'd like to let me just kind of pop into this conversation, the idea of competitors. Okay, first and foremost, everything in this entire universe has already been done. So it may not have been done the way that you can do it, though. Okay, so I don't want you to ever get discouraged that there's too many competitors out there, or, there's not enough market for it. You never know until you try. And the way that you present things to people, to clients and to potential customers, that only you can do you. Okay, so take that in mind, take that to heart. And never get discouraged, never give up on something, or don't think that you can't start something because the market isn't necessarily readily available. Because sometimes these things, they develop over time. Sometimes it happens, but just by pure chance of something landing in someone's hands, or it comes across in an email to them, and it hits the right person at the right time, right? So this is one of those things where I always fully encourage people to go after their dreams, and to always pursue something. I'm a little bit of a risk taker myself. Okay, so I would rather take the risk and absolutely fail than to never try something. And, I'm like that. I'm like that, unfortunately, in relationships too sometimes. But it's the idea of, you have this idea, this business idea, and it could have started off as a hobby, but it could turn into something exponentially successful and amazing. Okay, so never give up on your dreams. Now, if you're wanting to take your hobby, I'd like to talk about the importance of tools, the tool set that you have. And, sometimes that is actual physical tools, like a hammer, or something like that. But a lot of times it's the idea of, it could be technology, it could be marketing, it could be, photography equipment. So if you take pictures of your products and you're trying to get them out there, it could be editing software, it could be, anything and everything, right? And a gambit of things could be covered right now. But the idea is you start where you're at, and that kind of goes back to the whole energy of. It goes back to the energy of, look, don't not start because you don't have the, quote, correct tools at this moment, right? Like if you know that you can start on something and you can develop something, your tools are going to become more professional over time. They're going to become, more in tune. You're going to get the idea and the feel of what works for you and what doesn't work for you. You're going to get the idea of what works for your final product, and how to kind of manipulate that. And that's the whole thing about being prototypes. So for those of you who are in the business of, or you're wanting to start the business, you're wanting to start the business of creating products. Sometimes you have to have a prototype, right? You have to have a starting point is what I'm saying. So even with services, you have to have a starting point, and then you can kind of mold and really get all of the details worked out as you work things out, as it evolves. And, being an entrepreneur is a total process of change and evolution. Things constantly change. Markets change, people's needs change, your needs change from, personal needs and things like that. But just know that if you're really serious about taking a hobby and turning it into a full-time business, that sometimes you're going to be working your normal, quote, job or the career field that you're in before you actually transition into the full-time job of what you're doing. So I worked corporate America, most of my life. And, before I actually started my boutique business, I was doing that kind of on the side, on the weekends, or I would sign up for events, like festivals, and I would set up my tent and, my table, and I would have the things that I made set out. And, and it kind of gave me a good idea of what the market was, what people were looking for. Also, it gave me great feedback from the public. Like I got, they were like, "Oh, we love this. Oh, I wish we could see more of this." And, so I was able to take a lot of that feedback and implement it into my business plan, into my design. Now, I'm not one of those people who I'll be honest. I have 2 businesses that I run full time right now myself, and I've never written a business plan. I know there's probably some financial analysts out there or bankers or, whatever, but they're like, what? No business plan. No, honey, I fly by the seat of my pants, and it's okay because it works for me, right? I'm a full-time creator. So it's all about creating and letting the entire process evolve, because it gives me a great idea of what I need to do for my marketing and, the direction that I need to take. And if it's tools that need to be added to the warehouse, it's like, okay, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to add these tools in because I'm seeing that there's a need and I can tweak it this way. So I'm very hands-on with my business. I'm very, I'm in the trenches, and I want to say this as well. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, and you thought that you could do it without a set schedule, or, that you're not going to work 40 hours. Sometimes we work more than 40 hours. I'll be honest. When I very first started my businesses, I was working a good 60 hours, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun, and it was different. And it was the whole creation process, and, doing everything from the administrative side of things into product and development and research and development, and then going into prototypes, and then working my way into marketing. And so, I have this entirely, wonderful skill set that I've been able to build. And then over time, I've gotten to where it's like, hey, I might work, quote, like 15 hours a week now, and still reap way more benefits than I ever did in corporate America. But I've been doing this, for the last 4.5 years now. So, I've kind of streamlined my processes and how I do things. But, this is one of those things where you kind of look at it and you go, okay, so, if you're really wanting to take a hobby and turn it into a full-time business, you have to be willing to invest your time, invest yourself. You're going to learn a lot of things, and you need to be open to learning all of these wonderful tools, all these skill sets, all these opportunities. You have to be willing to put yourself out there and market yourself, right? People will ask you on the fly what it is that you do. You have to be ready at any given point in time for a 5-minute, elevator spiel, right? You got to be able to just be able to talk to people and, tell them about your product, and you have to be excited about it. This is one of those things. I know that if you've listened to, people like Bob Proctor or, other people like that, they're like, you gotta love what you do, and when you love what you do, the money comes, and it does, but I just want to kind of reiterate, unless you are financially capable of, and this is my little PSA, unless you're financially capable of totally just jumping ship from your current career and going straight into turning your hobby into a full-time gig, allow yourself the opportunity to have transition time. Allow those transitions to overlap. Allow your transition to overlap. And, that's important because one, it's going to, you may be putting in more hours than you want, but I think in the long run, you're able to transition out a lot smoother. And you are able to still keep resources, in your bank account. So, I think that's kind of my PSA on taking a hobby and turning it into a full-time business. First of all, you need to really love what you do. You need to love it so much that, you're willing to go the extra mile for it. And I know my last podcast was about pivoting. You have to be willing, if you're an entrepreneur, you have to be willing to pivot at any point in time. You have to be willing to kind of change directions and, and evolve with your business. So, if it's something that you're really serious about, I fully encourage you to follow your dreams and, and to create, just absolutely create, and yeah, I think that's it, you guys. I think that's it. It's just don't be afraid to try something new. Don't be afraid to try something new. Don't be afraid to really hone in on what you love in life. And, and I want to say this too, if you have friends or family around you that aren't supportive, that could potentially hurt your business. So sometimes it's best not to share with others until it actually happens. Because people will kill the fuck out of your dreams, okay? And why? And mainly it's because they themselves aren't willing to go the extra mile and to create something like that because they're usually scared, or they're so indoctrinated that, you have to have something lined up before you can do something else. Now, I personally was raised, on the belief structure of you always have something in place before you leave your current job. You always have something in place. Well, sometimes that isn't possible, and sometimes people work best. They find out what they're really truly made of, when they take that leap without the safety net, so to speak. So, I think it's all personal experience. It's all, you do you. But never be afraid to take a risk, because you could create something absolutely fucking amazing in this world that this world needs, that humanity needs, that that really is going to change the direction of things. So have faith. For those of you who are wanting to become entrepreneurs, or those of you who are currently entrepreneurs, just keep going. Just keep going. Keep going, keep evolving, keep creating, and stay magical. So until next time,